Alright, so I was gonna try and make a short video about this, but I'm kind of a long-winded bastard and it never works out for me. I end up stuttering and getting all mixed up, which I do anyway, so I appreciate you forgiving me, but I just can't fit it all into 60 seconds. I built a ladder for the Model 99 243, and the ladder, I have no real load data for it. I have some old load data for an 85 grain out of an old Spears book my dad has with Winchester 748. And then I have several powders in the Hornady manual that are of burn rates between 748 and CFE223. And so I'm running CFE. And so I selected some charge weights that I thought would be safe to start, and they are safe. I also ran them through PMAX, and PMAX showed a significantly lower pressure than desired. PMAX shows me at 41 grains being at 56,000 psi. That's not an exact science. That's just computer simulation. So I'm still doing a ladder, and I topped out my ladder a tenth of a grain higher than the old Spear manual was. It was 36.1. I wanted to go a half a grain. Results were pretty much the same, but there's some interesting data here. So first things first is that all of the brass has a bunch of carbon around the neck, and a significant amount of the brass has carbon running down the side of the case. Some of it might have gotten wiped. There you go, you can see. So, and all the way up to the highest charge weight, not so bad down the walls of the case, but at least up to the shoulder, which I don't like to see. I like my loads to be pretty high pressure, pretty hot, and I like my brass to come out clean. That doesn't look particularly clean because I've annealed it a couple times, but it's clean. This obturates and fills the chamber, and all the dirt is either in the case or down the barrel. So these are significantly lower pressure than we would like to see. This is the last of those Remington 75 grains that I had, and it was interesting. The box advertised 3,200 some odd feet per second out of a 24-inch barrel. This rifle, I'm pretty sure, I haven't measured it with a tape measure, I'm pretty sure it's a 22 or a 20-inch barrel, and we got 31.27, so that's pretty hot cartridge. I ran these through the chrono, and we've got our starting charge average of 26.37 and a standard deviation of 10.1. Here, average of 27.23, standard deviation of 12. Okay, so pretty much all of the 87 grain stuff in the Hornady book, 3,100 is the max, and 3,000 is common for even the faster powders. But this is actually like closer down to like the 2/3 area of the burn rate chart. So I should be able to easily push 3,100 feet a second out of this thing. And PMAX says that I should be able to push 3,100 feet a second at like 54,000 PSI. And 60,000 is the max for a 243. So I think we can get close. However, these low pressure charges were looking pretty accurate, and she had a flyer over here, and we're still working on fundamentals here. So we're working on some recoil management, and there's some interesting things. I'm going to write some numbers on this, and then you'll get a little better understanding here. So what happened is I had to loosen up her scope and realign her crosshairs. We're a little off vertical, and so I got everything plumb and square in that thing again. So what I did was I loaded up a round of ciders, and the ciders are in Hornady brass. All the rest of this ladder was in Remington brass. So I shot a couple of the ciders first to make sure they're safe before we even started the ladder, to foul the barrel, to, you know, get this thing dialed at 50 yards. And so this was her first group aiming here, and then I made a scope adjustment and got all the rest of the groups are pretty much where we want, pretty much on the money. So what happened was she shot this ladder with the Remington brass, this charge weight, and shot that group, which I think all told it's about a 3-inch group. I looked at it through my reticle, and it was looking like about 3 MOA. But then after she finished the whole entire ladder, we had some talks about, for one, cheek weld, about getting the cheek weld where she's marrying somewhere in her face the same exact place every time she mounts the rifle and makes a cheek. So after she does all of that, first off, she shot a much better group here after making that adjustment, because I was telling her I was unsure whether this is the load or whether this is, because having everything pretty near looking decent but being horizontally strung, I thought that maybe that was some sort of a parallax error. And this is a very old scope, so the parallax is probably going to be a little more of a problem than with a more modern scope. So she dialed it in more with this group, and considering all these groups are way under pressured, like, I think they're probably going to shoot mostly the same. But when she came back to revisit this charge weight, she shot a significantly different and significantly better group, and I am overjoyed. And I think she's got that part dialed. So next time we're going to go out and shoot a ladder, and I'm going to go up to probably 41.3 grains just to see, because it says that my actual maximum of 60,000 should land around 41.3 or 41.4. So I'm going to go out there and see, check for pressure signs, check some velocities, and see what it does. But this is the velocity data, and I mean, we're way short of where we want to be, but you know, this velocity with a 73 or 75 grain bullet in a 223 will absolutely kill a deer. Now, I understand the sectional density is a little different between a 22 caliber and a 6mm bullet, but not much. These 87 grain bullets are pretty long, and so I think that would be a more than sufficient deer cartridge right there as it sits, but we're going to try and pump it up a little bit more. And this was the information, oddly enough, with the Hornady brass. The first shot that I fired of the day was 27.75 with the Hornady, and I could not get there again other than these charge weights, so I think that might have been the chronograph. I don't fully trust this thing yet, but it gives me some interesting data, and you know, gathering 5 data points, that's why I do that, so I can throw one out here and there that I just don't trust it. The rest of these all seem reasonable, and that very well could have been something funky, like my scale. I threw a funky charge, and sometimes when I'm trickling, my scale it'll automatically adjust like it made an error, and I'll actually have like 2 or 3 tenths of a grain hotter of a charge than I should have. But 2 or 3 tenths of the grain is not enough to account for that, so I can't exactly explain it, so it got thrown out of the data. But we're looking at standard deviations around 11, 10, 12, 13. And I think when I get closer to a full case, you know, closer to that 41 to 42 grain area, I think we're gonna get a little happier and be looking a little better. But so that was the trip, and the Model 99's getting closer. Sadie's getting much more dialed with it, and like I say, a group like this looks like what it is, but you put 5 more in there, and then 5 more, and then 5 more, and you've got a 3-inch group with a ragged hole in the middle where you've just punched over and over and over and over. You know, people have killed deer with 30-30s that shot worse than that for, I don't know, since 1894, I would say. So that's pretty good. We're going to get better. We're always practicing, but that's what I wanted to share. I'm proud of it. I'm proud of her. And we're working towards the perfect load for the Model 99.